in Ireland, moved to London, our headquarters. But we have offices all around the world. So we have, from Hong Kong to Beijing, Buenos Aires, Brazil. We have pretty much everywhere.
And what's the exciting news, the breaking news, we received the press release and the news in Buckhead. So you officially have a presence now for North America, but specifically Atlanta, but in Buckhead, right in our backyard. And so we're very excited to have you on the Buckhead Business Show. Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
So we at GSMA, we want to be at the best mobile cities in the world. We want to be in the cities that are putting commitment into becoming smart cities of the future, that want to be at the heart of mobile. And so for us, Atlanta was one of them, and we have recommitted to Atlanta by moving to a much bigger, nicer office at the Armour Yards. We doubled the size in the last 2 years.
Wow.
We've launched a show here in the U.S. Last year. Mobile Congress Americas was in San Francisco last year. It was going to be in Los Angeles this year. So we are committed to Atlanta. We want to be part of the success of Atlanta becoming a smart city in the future and become a leader in the mobile technology.
Have those dates been announced yet for the LA event?
Yes.
Okay.
So they are 12th to the 14th of September in LA.
And that's for 2018, and then either 19 or 20, you're going to bring it to Atlanta, maybe, right?
We never know.
Yeah.
We never know.
Yeah. And so, talk to us a little bit more about that footprint right in our backyard. For people not familiar with that area, what made it unique? How did that end up on your short list?
What, Armour Yards?
Yeah, Armour Yards, yeah.
It was about our culture, so we wanted a place that represented our culture, the innovation, all the future that we see in the mobile industry. 10 years ago, mobile was almost nothing, right?
Yeah.
You probably remember the clunky handsets and
the flip phones.
And today we're talking about artificial intelligence, virtual reality, a world of possibilities, right? And so we wanted something that represented that. So we looked for a space where we could build something like that had that field of innovation that our members can come to. We welcome our members in our offices. They can use our meeting rooms. We wanted to be part of the heart of that innovation. So the building at Armour Yards kind of represented that. It's lended itself to be a very future-looking type of infrastructure. We put a robotics receptionist.
Really? Wow.
It's all state-of-the-art. From connectivity to everything is all state-of-the-art.
Well, you're painting a picture that does not jump off the page on print right here, because I was just reading some of the stats. 15,000 square feet, 90 employees. That's a lot of elbow room for everybody if they have 15,000 square feet. But now you're describing it, Michael, I think we should do the next show live over there, right?
I believe we may have to have an update there, but boy, when she said robotic receptionist, that puts a new idea to gatekeeper to me.
Right, exactly, yeah. I've met some robotic receptionists or whatever.
I think we all have. So it does sound like we need to have that as one of our live remotes when the traffic count goes up a little bit, and look at how we might communicate better. So there's just so much technology coming about, the Internet of Things and all the different connectivity. But what's interesting to me, and maybe you could talk to this point, this unique ID that we all have is now all the way back to a simple phone number. Everything kind of ties back to an individual, and it has become very personal. So in your organization, how does that feel and look? What's going on there?
So we actually a great believer that phone number could be so much more and simplify people's lives. One of the things that the GSMA does is bring the ecosystem together, the mobile ecosystem, to think about new services and how do we create a better life for consumers. And mobile identity is one of them. So we believe that phone number could help us eliminate all the usernames and passwords that
Hallelujah.
everyone has to struggle with.
Sign me up for that one.
Well, you see, there's no capitals in numbers, right?
No capitals
And no special characters either in numbers.
And if you have your phone number, and if you have your phone with you, there's no reason why you could do authentication right on your phone,
Yeah.
rather than remember how many uppercase, lowercase, symbol.
What happens when we run out of numbers? Yeah.
Oh,
For phone
there's
numbers.
enough of those. But what about we'll all talk about later. But I want to talk about the anonymity issue that some people want to hide behind. But just move back to that later.
When you were talking about back to the facility there, just picturing that, imagining that, and also what you just spoke to, is it sounds like you're maybe not less of a trade association, more of an advocate for the industry, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work to make sure that mobile services are easier for
Yeah.
consumers and for people to be able to use them. So we work like in the future services, future communication services, the
Right.
future of messaging, future of voice, so voice over LTE and all that. And we make sure that services around the world on those 800 wireless carriers are launched in a similar way,
Right.
so that when you pick up the phone and you try to call whoever you want outside of the U.S., it works.
There's
right?
some continuity there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Internet of Things
Right.
is another big area
Yeah.
for us, where we try to make sure that the standards are there. We are not a standards organization, but
Okay.
we bring the industry together to input into standards in organizations, and we solve problems many times.
So you're kind of the Internet of other things. So you're listening to the Buckhead Business Show here on the Pro Business Channel Network with Rich Casanova, and most of Michael Moore's voice is here today.
Most of it.
So if you're tuning in, we welcome you to invite you to join us at a breakfast meeting at the Buckhead City Club. You were there this morning, right?
Oh, we were. We just kicked off our new year and installed our new officers and recruited our new committees, and we're off and running like always. And the next most important thing coming up for us is we have the State of Buckhead Address coming up on February 22nd. So
Oh, nice.
everybody needs to put that date on the calendar, because we'll have the infamous
Mr.
honorary mayor of Buckhead, Sam Massell, will tell us not only what's happened, but what's going to happen, because we just had the annual meeting yesterday of the coalition, released our new guidebooks, will be coming out next week, and boy, I tell you what, it's amazing what we have here at the corner of the world. Isn't that Peachtree and Piedmont? Isn't that the corner of the world?
I thought it was the corner of our studio right here, but yeah. Maybe I'm just in a bubble here.
Yeah,
Yeah, speaking of Mr. Massell, former mayor of Atlanta, he was just your guest here a couple weeks ago on the show. I think that show went viral.
Brad did.
Yes,
It's amazing. He has his book, Play It Again, Sam, and there are stories in there that not only have you never heard, but some of them you might not even believe. But Buddy's Coke stand over in Druid Hills paralleled and was the original Driving Miss Daisy background, I think.
And so, once again, we're speaking with Anna Tavares, the head of North America for GSMA. There's a city named after you in Florida.
Oh, really?
Tavares. I grew up in Leesburg, and the neighboring town is Tavares, yeah. And so, talk to us, revisit your role again with this launch and presence in Atlanta. What does a day look like for you and your role in your job, and what are some other capacities amongst those 90 employees? How does that kind of divvy up?
So I don't think I have 2 days the same, so
All
it'll
right.
be difficult to tell you how a day looks like, because it's always so unpredictable. But what I'm here for, back in 2016, the GSMA announced the regionalization process, so we want to be closer to our members.
Okay.
We want to make sure that there is a presence here, so I have a team that supports specifically U.S., Canada, Caribbean operators that are closer to this office. And so, from working specifically with the programs implementation, so the Internet of Things, Future Networks, all of that closer to the members here. We have a North America Regional Interest Group as well, which is a bunch of working groups that work to make sure that what the global working groups specify, we have an implementation for North America, and that we'll look at the specific issues from here, and we customize whatever needs to be customized for here. So from fraud and security, all the way to interconnection of the future of messaging and the future of voice. All of those things have a place in our North America Regional Interest Group.
Well, then you mentioned your members. Many of us never think about the number of different carriers around, and when we now put the Internet of Things in there, does that make a difference in the number of carriers? I mean, we know of the Verizons and the Sprints and the AT&Ts, but I know in the Caribbean years ago, Cable and Wireless and XYZ, and there were just so many carriers. So in North America and Mexico and Canada and the Caribbean, about how many carrier members or carriers do we really have? Or give us a little idea of what that network looks like behind the scenes.
So U.S., Canada, and Caribbean. We have Mexico in Latin America, just because it makes it easier.
Sure.
But just U.S., Canada, and Caribbean, we have about 110.
Wow, that makes it
wireless
pretty hard to
carriers.
coordinate, right?
And that does not include, by the way, the virtual network operators, so Virgin, and so we only included the ones that actually own the spectrum on that count.
Wow. That makes coordination and education, as well as you said, just communicating information, so complex to make sure that your phone number does work no matter where you are in the world today, correct?
Correct.
So are we going to see the landlines go the way of the fax machine, or?
I don't know, right? I mean, the landline industry for a long time seemed to be dying, and now you see a lot of the triple plays, quadruple plays, and I don't know what's going to be the future for them, but.
You didn't bring your crystal ball with you this morning, whatever.
I wish I had one.
So now, obviously, serving those 800 providers, 300 other companies, as you mentioned, the handset and device makers, software companies, and so forth. Do you do any inbound, outbound, or local, networking or events? Because I think one of the reasons why you mentioned early on at the top of the show, you're picking Atlanta. We're one of the leading international cities in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's 81 international consulates here. There's 38 international chambers of commerce. Do you affiliate or network? Or, I mean, because you're in a very niche, very specific industry, right? But do you interact with organizations outside of your wheelhouse per se, or?
So we do partner with the Wireless Technology Forum, for example, and my head of technology has a board seat there. And we also partner with TAG, so the Technology Association for Georgia.
Oh yeah, TAG, yeah.
So those are the two today. We every year we kind of look how we can support more of the local communities, and so we're always open to look at more of them.
Well, from the education perspective, I think it's very important here in Atlanta, kind of the center of the universe, as we say. But one of the things I'll ask, because it's a very important, one of our subjects this morning at the meeting, by the way, was just our speaker series and what we do to provide education to folks each week or each month in our organization. So I'm sure you have a speakers bureau because you have a lot of technically competent folks in your circle, and there's a lot of information. So a speakers bureau must be something that's pretty important to you, and I share with the technique. I'm glad we can call on you now for a new resource, because we weren't aware you were out there until we started this conversation. So you are the speakers bureau. I just saw that hand.
No, you can do that. We have a lot of subject matter experts within our company, and some of them are now based out of Atlanta as part of this process of regionalization. So we're more than welcome to come to us if you need a speaker.
Well,
I was also remembering that as part of that, our commitment of partnering with the local communities, we're also looking at bringing our Women for Technology program here.
All right.
And potentially partnering with some local institutions. We try to make sure that we align with the objectives of the United Nations of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And two of those goals are quality education and gender equality. So we have a huge program worldwide about that, and we want to bring it here to Atlanta. So we'll start with the education front, so trying to get girls, schoolgirls, more incentivized in studying STEM subjects. and be able to learn how to code and come forward to the technology careers, hopefully.
Well, that would certainly be exciting. So we're looking forward to making some connections. I've been just jotting down notes of folks I'm aware of that would definitely benefit, because I remember that old, you're afraid of what you don't know sometimes, and you certainly can't employ what you're not familiar with, or you will not employ what you're familiar with in case of fear of failure, which is a scary thing for a lot of people in leadership or want to be in leadership.
I want to come back to an earlier topic you mentioned about the culture of the company. Speak to that just in a second. Maybe there's some nonprofits, organizations that you all support, organizations that you're kind of behind. But before we talk about that, you mentioned STEM. We've had several people in here talking about STEM. We actually had a series of kids business radio show in here, so it's kind of kid entrepreneurs. It's really cool to kind of support and see, because that's the future in any organization, any culture, any environment, is the next generation and educating those people. I'm also going to put a quick plug in for a new show we're launching February 22nd, I believe it is, International Business Radio. That's the reason I was kind of asking or intrigued by your interest in selecting Atlanta being an international city. We're launching that, and I'm going to potentially, I'll make an introduction, potential invite if there's of interest, because they're actually coming in from D.C. They're a global currency exchange organization worldwide, and they happen to be doing their show here in Atlanta. So, but let's talk about the culture of the company. What kind of makes you all different, or what's some of your goals or objectives to kind of further that mission?
So we are very diverse company in every single aspect of it, because we are so global and so international. You'll always find that as one big aspect of us. We pride that our staff looks at being bold and big ideas. We have the ability to influence a platform that covers 5 billion wireless customers worldwide, right? So our board represents 75% of those customers.
Wow.
So we try to make sure that everyone understands that everyone can have an impact,
right,
and everyone strives for success, and making sure that we make the mobile industry a better industry in the future, and we make sure that our staff understands how they can play a role there. So those are two big aspects: diversity and striving for greatness, I guess.
All right, before we take our next break, let folks know how would they reach out to you. What's good contact information? How would they find out more about the GSMA?
So they can go to our website, www.gsma.com. So GSMA.com.
Can't get much easier than that.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
And you're also on social media, it looks like on Twitter as well. And welcome again to Atlanta, obviously. Again, Rich Casanova here alongside Mr. Michael Moore with, you're about 60% of your voice now.
Now, I think it's improving.
It
That lemonade, honey, and whatever that miscellaneous brown ingredient was somebody put in this morning worked.
If people didn't ask you to speak so much around town, you'd have more of your voice that I bring in with you. But you're, again, listening to the Buckhead Business Show, brought to you in part by the Buckhead Business Association, de facto chamber, well, I say de facto chamber of commerce.
It
65
is,
years.
Yeah, it's 65 years of
history.
voice. Yeah, it's pretty well established now. We were formed, I guess, before Atlanta became part of the engulfed Buckhead, and we were formed, as they tell me, by shop owners, so they could determine who was kicking over the cans in front of their store at night. But it was those boys from the back streets. But we've had a great history here, and of course we've seen Buckhead go from literally 1- and 2-story buildings to what we're looking out the window today at the $1 billion view, and it definitely has grown up with Atlanta.
And what's great and unique about the BBA, although they do have that historic past of 65 years, but they're always looking, my perception is always looking to the future. They have an organization that some people may not be familiar with, a subgroup called the Young Bucks.
Oh, wow.
So for the young up-and-coming leaders, matter of fact, the current incoming president, or the current president who's just inaugurated, is for the BBA, was a former Young Buck.
Former Young Bucks president,
yeah.
Currently the youngest president of the Buckhead
Really?
Business Association all these years.
So I lost my chance at being the youngest
Yeah,
president.
you lost your chance.
That was a few years back. All right, so so Anna, again, head of North America for the GSMA. Talk to us about what's a good day look like for you guys over there. You know, what's a win and accomplishment, you know?
A win was when we get one operator or two operators or three operators to actually deploy specifications that we've defined, for example, making sure that that we achieve that interoperability, that to know that you know we've defined, for example, security guidelines for Internet of Things, and that those security guidelines have been implemented, so that you know things like we used to hear of someone hacking into a baby monitor, that doesn't happen in the future, not on a mobile network at least, right? So that's success for us. Success is that we've been able to work with the carriers to make sure that they've deployed the service in a certain way,
Right.
and that we've been successful in doing so, or that we've managed to convince sometimes governments to align on spectrum to make sure that you don't have to have hundreds of bands on your phones that will make it much more expensive.
Right.
So those are kind of achievements for us.
And I probably should ask this question first, but what's a challenge or what's one of the difficult parts of your job in you know, implementing and making things happen?
Challenge is we don't have a crystal ball.
Okay, right.
Well, not yet. Artificial intelligence may help that.
We don't know. So we try to align with what we believe, or the majority of our board believes that the future will be.
Right.
But of course, in our board, they are collaborating, but they're also competitors, right? So to move an industry, any industry in the ecosystem, you're going to have competitors collaborating in order to achieve something, and that's a challenge, always a challenge.
Absolutely.
This is like the tug of war. You want to keep your team as close together as possible without getting very complex, because you warned us we couldn't talk technical. But does everybody really understand that everything from the video to the phone to the emergency channels to the police channels to everything we talk, see, feel, and almost touch now is actually related to your industry?
No, we normally are very silent partner.
Right.
That's why most people, I guess the consumer will not know who we are. But hopefully the mobile ecosystem does, because they do work with us, and they are part of the solutions and the problems we fix.
So
you're the puppeteers for the mobile industry.
And so can you give us a scoop about Amazon? Are you kind of pulling any strings there? Now that you're here and you have all these connections worldwide, can you make the announcement? Can you make Amazon magically appear here? Or?
I wish we could.
That would be a win, right?
That would be a very big
Well, that would be helpful, very helpful for their plan.
Yeah. So we just have a few more minutes remaining. So you know, what's next? What's on the horizon? You know, for your organization. What's next on the horizon, or what's you know, part of your big picture?
So right now we have we're preparing for our mobile congress in Barcelona, which is our annual show. It's the biggest trade show in the mobile industry.
Right.
It brings over 100,000 people to Barcelona. We're expecting 108,000 this year.
Wow,
that's certainly over 100K.
And two. Can you add two more people? Yeah. 108,000 people. That's just.
It's part of what we do, and that's what we want to grow the Los Angeles event this year to be in the future. Hopefully, we convene the industry in order for them to be able to make business, to come out of there and know that they've met the right people, and they've signed contracts and have new opportunities for the future, and that's what we try to achieve. So Barcelona is a big one for us.
You want to be in the know, you need to be in Barcelona, Rich.
Yeah, well, we were talking before we went on the air. I was in Barcelona for the Olympics, and 108,000 people. That sounds like that pretty much takes over the entire city.
The entire
right?
city, that's correct, yes. Yeah. 26th of February to the 2nd of March, so that week.
Well, send us a postcard, yeah.
I will.
So, So I think we're just about out of time, so we want to thank you again for being here. Anna Tavares, head of North America for the GSMA, and welcome officially to Atlanta and our neighborhood here in Buckhead. And we look forward to seeing you on an upcoming episode. Michael, any your closing thoughts?
No, just reach out and look at that backside of that site, and if your wireless carrier is not doing a good enough job, maybe they're not participating as much as they should in the GSMA. So, Vanna, we look forward to seeing your organization grow here with us in the city. Look forward to having you come visit us at the Buckhead Business Association. And as a crystal ball, I see a lot of speaking opportunities for you here in our city, and I'll be glad to help with those as best we can, and we'll always be glad to promote the organization and the GSMA opportunity. So GSMA.com, sign up often, and y'all have any final thoughts for us?
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great, appreciate it. Signing off.
All right, we're clear.
Ms. Yvette, critique.
Awesome.
How was it? How'd you feel? All three of you.
All three of us.
She just had to turn that right back on us, yeah.
I feel, marvelous. Is that what Billy Crystal said?